Alright guys, welcome back to the Planet Football YouTube channel. Today we are switching it up a little bit, and instead of reacting to a classic footballer of years gone by, we're actually going to be checking out some old Premier League stadiums and how they've actually changed over the years from their older iterations to how they are looking these days. If you do go on to enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like, and if you've got any other suggestions of classic footballing things that you'd like to see me looking into on the channel, then make sure to get your suggestions in the comments down below. Plenty of content coming out, obviously back with the weekly videos. And without any further ado, let's go ahead and check out some classic Premier League stadiums. So let's go ahead and jump into this one and check out some Premier League stadiums then, and how they're actually looking now. So this video that we are reacting to is from the 17/18 season, so we'll include some older grounds from Premier League years gone by, as we're seeing here. Dean Court first of all, which, to be honest, hasn't actually changed all too much. If we go ahead and look at it there, there's similar sort of structure between both grounds, and obviously, I mean, not only was it the smallest ground in the Premier League, but, you know, right now with them in the Championship, one of the smallest. But yeah, you can definitely get packed into that ground and generate a little bit of atmosphere because it is so sort of tightly knitted and things like that. But I do think I like it when stadiums keep hold of their tradition, you know, when they are moving into the newer iterations of the ground. I'm sure we'll see some as this video goes along that sort of move into the generic sort of bowl shape, which I'm not as big of a fan of. Highbury, yeah, classic one. I think I have actually been outside of Highbury and what they've sort of made it into. I think they made it into flats since it's been a stadium. And the Emirates is iconic, isn't it? I know that the Emirates does sort of fall into that, you know, starts to go into that sort of boring bowl one, but I think the Emirates has enough uniqueness to it that I do quite like this one. I've done the walk between both stadiums. It's not all too far from the original one either, and I think that with the modern facilities and things like that, yeah, I'm sure Highbury holds, you know, a lot of memories from our Arsenal fans, you know, Invincibles and stuff like that, but I have to admit, I don't, as new stadiums go, I don't actually mind the Emirates. I think that's a decent one, to be fair. Okay, yeah, Brighton. Yeah, so not all too long ago, they redeveloped their one, obviously, moved into the Amex. I think, yeah, that had to be done for Brighton, really. I think they were in the Championship when they had that redevelopment done, moving towards the Amex. Necessary for how they've developed as a club. Burnley one though here, who I think I'd say has kept quite a lot of those old characteristics from that original ground to what they've sort of turned Turf Moor into since. All the sort of generic structures of the stands and things like that are all fairly similar, and I am just a bit of a sucker for the more classic sort of grounds, really. So yeah, Burnley's one that I quite like. Okay, Stamford Bridge, didn't realise there was a running track around that one originally. Stamford Bridge, another one that I have been to, been in and amongst Stamford Bridge. Decent stadium, to be fair, and there have, you know, been the plans will, I think, put in place at one stage for Chelsea to maybe even move out of Stamford Bridge. I think into that was a power plant at one point that they were looking at potentially going ahead and doing so, because I think they're quite limited in how they can probably expand Stamford Bridge even more, because it's quite all tightly knitted into the community and what they've got around it with sort of like borders and houses and things like that. But yeah, Stamford Bridge, you know, the hotel that's at one far end of it, it's all sort of woven into Premier League history now, isn't it? Chelsea wouldn't be the same if they weren't playing in Stamford Bridge, but yeah, that's an interesting one. Selhurst Park, okay, yeah. I think you can definitely tell here the stadiums that have sort of built on what was already there and the ones that have completely had a revamp and moved off elsewhere. Yeah, a lot of similar characteristics with that one. Goodison, another absolute classic stadium. Never actually been to Goodison Park, but I mean, dare I say, if Everton are relegated this season, I might get there with Preston next season. But yeah, Goodison, one of my favourites in the Premier League. Got that tradition about it, really. The church in the corner and things like that. But obviously, Everton themselves have plans to go ahead and move out of it, which is a little bit sad to me. But I suppose the trajectory of the club that they want to be on, you know, they want to be in amongst the Premier League's best clubs. And I suppose a new stadium is probably needed for that. And the plans for their new stadium do look absolutely fantastic. But I think before they go ahead and move out of that, I've got to get to Goodison Park at some point. Huddersfield, yeah, one that I've been to plenty of times. Quite a unique one, really, I'd say, with the sort of curvature of the roofs and things like that. You get a decent sort of away stand in there. They split the end behind the goal. I can't think of too many other stadiums in English football that have got that sort of curvature to each of the roofs. And it does give it that, you know, that little bit of uniqueness to it, I suppose, doesn't it? Leicester's, yeah. See, the King Power, dare I say it, merges into a little bit of a boring stadium because it is that sort of generic bowl one, really. You know, there's not all too much uniqueness to it. If you were to rip away the sort of LCFC of this stadium, you know, the blue seats and things like that, you're just left with a generic stadium after that, really, aren't you? So yeah, the King Power for me, not my personal favourite. Anfield, of course, always be classic. Yeah, and they've since redeveloped that stand, haven't they? I think they've got even more plans to go ahead and do so, to carry on expanding that one. And that's what I quite like to see personally. I like to see them sort of building on what's already there, as opposed to, you know, completely moving off in a different direction and building, you know, a new super stadium or something like that. But I think that with the history and tradition around Anfield, I think that has to be the case, really. But they have done a nice redevelopment job with Anfield. Main Road, yeah, heard a lot of things from Man City fans about how good Main Road was back in the day. So they've since moved into the Etihad. I've been in and around the Etihad, but I've not been in it to watch a football game or anything like that. But as modern stadiums go, I don't mind the Etihad. I think that what they've done for the surrounding area is quite nice as well. They got a state-of-the-art running track that I've been on before, which is right outside the Etihad. They got a full sort of campus that goes along with that as well, which is quite nice, to be fair. Old Trafford, yeah. Interesting one, Old Trafford, because it is, you know, probably the most, decorated English football stadium and things like that. But there are a lot of calls to sort of redevelop that one, with how some parts are maybe looking a bit worn and weathered at this point in time. You know, the Glazers may be neglecting that part of the football club in terms of keeping things up to date and expanding on building on things. Yeah, it's an interesting one with Old Trafford, but it is a brilliant stadium, isn't it? Absolutely huge as well. St James's, yeah, another absolutely iconic one. Probably one of my favourites in the Premier League, actually. Now, it's not a great away stand, I must stress that, because you are absolutely in the gods for Newcastle away. You're right up there. And if you've got a bit of a sight problem, good luck seeing the picture or anything like that. You'll need your binoculars with you. But yeah, St James's Park is absolutely epic, isn't it? Absolutely huge. Has that centrepiece of Newcastle. And certainly has that uniqueness to it, doesn't it? Southampton, one that I've not been to personally, but then again, sort of blends into that similar sort of bowly shape, doesn't it? You know, if you were to completely strip away the seats and swap them with, blue seats, you basically got Leicester Stadium at that point, haven't you? St Mary's, 32,000 it holds. Don't get me wrong, nothing wrong with the stadium. It's a very nice and sort of up-to-date one, but Stoke, yeah, one that I've been to plenty of times. I think Stoke's got enough sort of uniqueness to it, really. Obviously, got the two stands that connect and the two separate ones, which absolutely let all the wind in the world into that stadium. If you go into Stoke in the sort of wintry months, my God, you're going to get blown over in that away stand with all the wind that managed to howl around that stadium. But really nice away ending at Stoke. I quite like the ones away day as it goes as well. And I think a decent looking stadium. Yeah, Swansea. Oh wow, that's really small back in the day. To be fair, I thought the Liberty held a few more than just over 21,000 as well. Had it in my mind that it was a little bit bigger than that. A little bit more uniqueness with the design to it, but once again sort of fades into that bowl. White Hart Lane, always be a classic one. And obviously, yeah, when this video was made, the Tottenham Hotspur ground hadn't yet been built, but I think with the way that Spurs have gone ahead and manufactured this new stadium, I mean, it is one of the best in world football, really, isn't it? And I think they've avoided the general tropes of making it a boring, generic modern stadium by just having it as a little bit of a bowl. You know, they've given it different tiers and things like that. The end behind the goal, which is absolutely massive as well, I think will be good to generate atmosphere. And I think they've got a lot of sort of modern features in that one that Spurs are probably the envy of the league at the moment in terms of the up-to-date facilities in that ground. But White Hart Lane was absolutely fantastic, wasn't it? Vicarage Road, yeah. That's kept its similar sort of charm and character about it. From then to now, yeah, you can see where they've sort of built and developed on that ground. The Hawthorns, one that I've been to a few times, quite like the Hawthorns as well, as it goes. And versus now, yeah, you can see where they've sort of altered little bits about that, brought it more up to date. And this is probably one of the saddest declines, really. The Boleyn Ground into the London Stadium. I mean, Upton Park was just fantastic, wasn't it? Never got the chance to go there, but obviously since they've knocked it down, I get that West Ham, you know, had ambitions to become, you know, a European club, and to do that they probably did need to go ahead and expand or maybe move to a new stadium. But London Park, as a football stadium, I just don't think is it? You know, it was built for the Olympics, it was built as a running ground, and to convert that into a football stadium, I think is a pretty tough gig. I think that we've got a lot of football grounds around Italy and things like that where you're quite sort of far away from the pitch and things like that, but the culture in England, I think, is to be, you know, almost on top of the football, as close to the pitch as possible. And at the London Stadium, you don't quite get that. And I think that the general atmosphere, probably from both home and away fans in that ground, probably goes ahead and suffers a little bit as a result of that. As a stadium, it's absolutely fantastic, you know, built for the Olympics, state of the art and things like that. But as footballing grounds go, I'm not so sure myself.